Hello everyone, this is Susan Dominic, Assistant Professor with the Department of Electronics and Communication Engineering, Rajagiri School of Engineering and Technology. So welcome to the part 4 of our discussion on Module 5 of Digital Communication. So we have been discussing the topics on spread spectrum communication. So in this series of slides, we'll be discussing the analysis of direct sequence spread spectrum with coherent binary phase shift keying or DSBPSK. In the analysis of direct sequence spread spectrum with coherent binary phase shift keying or DSBPSK, we will be specifically looking at the topics like signal space dimensionality and processing gain and the derivation of the probability of error. So as we had discussed in the part 3 of the slides, this is a model that is used for analysis. So at the input we have the data sequence, binary data sequence B of t, which is given as the input to the binary PSK modulator, which is supplied with the carrier. And at the output of the BPSK modulator we have the modulated signal S of t. This signal S of t is first spread by using a PN sequence C of t, which is generated by a PN code generator, and at the output we have the signal X of t. Now this X of t is being transmitted from the transmitter side. So when the signal X of t is transmitted through the channel, we assume that we have a jammer which interferes, which produces a signal J of t, a jamming signal, and this J of t acts as an interference to the transmitted signal X of t. So these two signals, they get added in the channel, and at the receiver side we have the received signal Y of t. Now at the receiver side, the received signal is first multiplied with the PN sequence C of t, which is generated by a local PN code generator, and the output is denoted as U of t. Now this U of t is given to a coherent detector which is supplied with the carrier to produce an estimate of the transmitted binary sequence B of t. The first topic that we'll be discussing is the signal space dimensionality and processing gain. So the purpose of this discussion is to develop a signal space representation for the transmitted signal X of t as well as the interfering jamming signal J of t. So for this purpose, we consider two sets of orthonormal basis functions. One is phi k of t, which is equal to root of 2 by tc cos 2 pi fct, where the small t is between k times tc to k plus 1 times tc, and the phi k of t is 0 otherwise. The other set of orthonormal basis functions are indicated as phi k tilde of t, which is equal to root of 2 by tc sin 2 pi fct for k tc less than or equal to t less than or equal to k plus 1 tc and 0 otherwise. Here the small k, it can take values between 0, 1 up to capital N minus 1. So the various symbols that are used here are tc indicates a chip duration, capital N, it indicates the number of chips per bit, and we have the relationship TB is equal to N times TC, that is 1 bit duration will be equal to N number of chip durations, and FC indicates the carrier frequency. So first we'll be looking at the representation of the transmitted signal X of t. So specifically we'll be looking at the interval of one information bit, that is the time that we consider is between 0 less than or equal to t less than or equal to tb, because tb is 1 bit duration. So the transmitted signal X of t, as we had seen in the block diagram, X of t will be equal to the code sequence C of t into the modulated signal S of t. So X of t is equal to C of t into S of t. So we know that S of t is a BPSK signal, and we know that the representation for S of t is plus or minus root of 2 EB by TB cos 2 pi FCT. So we substitute this into the expression C of t into S of t, and we get the expression plus or minus root of 2 EB by TB C of t into cos 2 pi FCT. Now this will be equal to plus or minus root of EB by n summation k going from 0 to n minus 1 Ck into phi k of t for the considered duration 0 less than or equal to t less than or equal to tb. So in the last step we have used the substitutions. Tb is equal to n times tc followed by the expression for root of 2 by tc cos 2 pi fct as phi k of t. So we know that c of t is made up of a code sequence which contains c0 to cn minus 1, and each ck, that is each of the element of the code sequence, is either plus 1 or minus 1, and here EB indicates the signal energy per bit. So the transmitted signal x of t equal to c of t into s of t, we have the relationship plus or minus root of EB by capital N summation k going from 0 to n minus 1 Ck into phi k of t. So what we can conclude is that the transmitted signal x of t is an n-dimensional signal, because in the representation we can see that it requires n number of orthonormal basis functions phi k of t, because phi k of t has the value of k going from 0 to capital N minus 1. So the representation of x of t requires n number of orthonormal basis functions. So we can conclude that x of t is an n-dimensional signal that requires a minimum of n orthonormal functions for its representation. So next we will be looking at the representation of an interfering signal or the jammer signal j of t. So ideally, for the best kind of jamming, what a jammer would want is to place all its available energy in the same number of n dimensions as a transmitted signal x of t. So, but in the jamming scenario, the best a jammer can hope to know is only the bandwidth in which the signal is being transmitted. So he has no way of knowing the phase of the transmitted signal. So what a jammer does is, since he does not know whether the phase of the transmitted signal, he uses cosine as well as sine terms for his jamming signal. So if we look at j of t, the jamming signal, it will be equal to summation k going from 0 to n minus 1 jk phi k of t plus summation k going from 0 to n minus 1 jk tilde phi k tilde of t, where the small t is between 0 to tb. So here, as you can see, the jamming signal contains both phi k of t, that is cosine terms, as well as phi k tilde of t, that is sine terms. This is because he doesn't know whether the transmitted signal is cosine or sine, that is he does not know the phase of the transmitted signal. So here jk is a projection of j of t on phi k of t, and it is calculated as 0 to tb integral j of t phi k of t dt, and jk tilde is a projection of j of t on phi k tilde of t, and it is determined as integral 0 to tb j of t phi k tilde of t dt. Again here small k is between 0 to n minus 1. So if we look at the jamming signal, we can conclude that it is a 2n dimensional signal. So it requires twice the number of orthonormal basis functions that is required for the transmitted ds bpsk signal x of t. Next we calculate the average power of the interference signal j of t. This average power is indicated as capital J, and it can be determined as capital J is equal to 1 by tb integral 0 to tb j square of t dt. Now the expression for j of t is substituted from the previous slide, and this can be determined as capital J is equal to 1 by tb summation k going from 0 to n minus 1 jk square plus 1 by tb summation k going from 0 to n minus 1 jk tilde square. So here we have used the relation that since phi k and phi k tilde are orthonormal basis functions, we can use the relation that integral 0 to tc phi k square of t dt will be equal to integral 0 to tc phi k tilde square of t dt will be equal to 1. Now, since the signal phase is not known to the jammer, the best strategy that a jammer can apply is to place equal energies in the cosine and the sine coordinates. So hence we can assume that summation k going from 0 to n minus 1 jk square will be equal to summation k going from 0 to n minus 1 jk tilde square. Here jk's are the cosine coordinates and jk tildes are the sine coordinates of our signal j of t. So here we have assumed that the jammer will place equal energy in the cosine coordinates and the sine coordinates. So using this relationship in equation 1, we can rewrite the average power as capital J is equal to 2 by TB summation k going from 0 to n minus 1 jk square. So what we are aiming to do here is to find the signal to noise ratios or the SNRs measured at the input and output of the DS bar BPSK receiver. That is the purpose of this analysis. So if we indicate the coherent detector output as V, it can be expressed as V is equal to root of 2 by TB integral 0 to TB U of t cos 2 pi FCT dt. Here U of t is the input to the coherent detector, and the coherent detector or the product integrator is given the carrier as the input, where the local carrier is root of 2 by TB cos 2 pi FCT. So we know that U of t is equal to S of t plus C of t into J of t. Here U of t is input to the coherent detector, S of t is a D-spread BPSK signal, and C of t is a PN signal, and J of t is a jammer signal. So C of t into J of t is a spread jammer signal. So we substitute this for the expression of V, that is output of the coherent detector, that is V is equal to root of 2 by TB integral 0 to TB U of t cos 2 pi FCT dt. Now this substitution, the resulting result can be written in two parts, that is V can be written as sum of two terms Vs and VCG. Here Vs is a component due to the D-spread BPSK signal S of t, and VCJ will be the component due to the spread interference C of t into J of t. So the expression for Vs will be equal to, Vs is equal to root of 2 by TB integral 0 to t S of t cos 2 pi FCT dt, and VCJ will be equal to root of 2 by TB integral 0 to TB C of t J of t cos 2 pi FCT dt. So Vs is a component which is corresponding to the D-spread BPSK signal S of t, and VCJ is a component corresponding to the spread interference signal C of t J of t. So the D-spread BPSK signal S of t can be expressed as plus or minus root of 2 EB by TB cos 2 pi FCT, where t is a value between 0 to TB or the bit duration. So here the plus sign, it corresponds to bit 1, and the minus sign corresponds to bit 0. So if we assume that the carrier frequency Fc is an integer multiple of 1 by TB, we can calculate the signal component Vs as plus or minus root EB. So here what we do is we substitute for S of t as the expression in the top into the expression of Vs, and then if we integrate it, we get plus or minus root EB. So here we use the formula that integral 0 to TB cos square 2 pi FCT dt will be equal to TB by 2. Again, these results are from the discussion on the BPSK modulation scheme. Now we consider the second component, that is VCJ, which is due to the interference. And for substitution, what we do is we substitute the PN sequence C of t in the form of the sequence C0, C1 up to Cn minus 1, and this expression for VCJ, which is equal to root of 2 by TB integral 0 to TB C of t into J of t into cos 2 pi FCT dt, it will become square root of 2 by TB summation k going from 0 to n minus 1 ck integral, the limits they change to k tc to k plus 1 tc J of t cos 2 pi fct dt. So here what we have done is we have substituted for c of t in the form of its sequence containing the sequence c0, c1 up to cn minus 1. So next what we do is we use this relationship, that is phi k of t is equal to root of 2 by tc cos 2 pi fct between k tc to k plus 1 tc in the expression for VCJ. That is VCJ, as we had seen in the previous slide, VCJ is equal to root of 2 by TB summation k going from 0 to n minus 1 Ck integral k Tc to k plus 1 Tc j of t into cos 2 pi fct dt. So into this expression we substitute cos 2 pi fct as phi k of t into root of Tc by 2. So this substitution, it leads us to the expression root of Tc by Tb summation k going from 0 to n minus 1 Ck integral 0 to Tb j of t phi k of t dt. So next what we do is we substitute for integral 0 to Tb j of t phi k of t dt as jk. That is, jk is the projection of j of t on phi k of t. So finally we arrive at the expression for VCJ as VCJ is equal to root of Tc by Tb summation k going from 0 to n minus 1 Ck into jk. So this we denote as equation number 2. So next what we do is we approximate the Pn sequence as an independent and identically distributed binary sequence. So the previous equation, that is equation number 2, can now be rewritten as capital VCJ is equal to root of Tc by Tb summation k going from 0 to n minus 1 capital Ck into jk. So here capital VCJ and capital Ck are now random variables with their sample values as small VCJ and small ck as in the equation 2. So next we assume that the jammer is assumed to be fixed, that is there is no randomness regarding the jamming signal. So with ck treated as IID random variables, the probability of ck taking plus or minus 1 will be probability of ck is equal to 1 will be equal to probability of ck is equal to minus 1 is equal to half. That is, ck, the value of ck can be either plus 1 or minus 1, and since they are independent and identically distributed, both ck is equal to plus 1 and ck is equal to minus 1 have equal probabilities of 0.5. Now that capital VCJ is a random variable, we can calculate its mean and variance. Okay, so first, for calculating the mean of the random variable capital VCJ, we assume that the value of k is fixed and we need to calculate the expected value of ck into jk given jk. So if we calculate this mean value, it can be found that this is equal to 0. So given jk means that the jk is assumed to be known and we are trying to calculate the average value of ck into jk. So the proof for this mean value is that expected value of ck into jk given jk can be written as jk into expected value of ck, since jk is assumed to be known as the jammer is assumed to be fixed. So this expected value of ck can be written as 1 into probability of ck taking the value 1 plus minus 1 into probability of ck taking the value of minus 1. So this is from the relationship as shown on the right. That is, for any discrete random variable capital X, if we assume that the discrete random variable capital X can take two values, small x1 and x2, then the expected value can be calculated as small x1 into probability that the random variable takes the value small x1 plus small x2 into probability that the random variable takes the value small x2. So similarly here, expected value of ck can be calculated as, since ck can take only two possible values plus 1 and minus 1, so the expected value of ck will be plus 1 into probability that Ck is taking the value +1 plus -1 into probability that Ck is taking the value -1. So this will be now equal to Jk into probability that Ck is equal to 1 minus Jk into probability that Ck is equal to -1. So since we know that probability of Ck is equal to 1 and probability of Ck is equal to -1 are both 1 by 2, if we substitute for this, the expression for the expected value becomes 0. So the mean of the random variable Vcj is 0. So since the mean is 0, we know that the variance will be equal to the mean square value. So we assume that the vector j is fixed. So here vector j denotes the vector with the components j1, j2 up to jn minus 1, and if we calculate the variance of capital Vcj, it can be found as variance of Vcj given the vector j will be equal to 1 by n summation k going from 0 to n minus 1 jk square. So the proof for determining the variance of Vcj is not provided in the textbook. So for those who are interested, we can prove the variance of Vcj given j as summation 1 by n summation k going from 0 to n minus 1 jk square by following this step. So as I said earlier, since the mean is 0, the variance will be equal to the mean square value. So the variance expression can be written as the mean square value or expected value of Vcj square. Now if we substitute for the expression of Vcj, it can be written as expected value of root of Tc by Tb summation k going from 0 to n minus 1 Ck jk into root of Tc by Tb summation L going from 0 to n minus 1 Cl jl. So here we have used two indices k and L. Now root of Tc by Tb into root of Tc by Tb can be taken outside since it is a constant which is equal to Tc by Tb, and then we have expected value of summation k going from 0 to n minus 1 Ck jk into summation L going from 0 to n minus 1 Cl jl. Now what we do is we group together the summation terms and we take the expectation inside. So the expression now becomes 1 by capital N summation k going from 0 to n minus 1 summation L going from 0 to n minus 1 expected value of Ck gk Cl gl. So again we have used the expression that Tb is equal to n times Tc. So that is why we have Tc by Tb as 1 by n. Now since jk and jl are constant, these can be taken outside, and this expression can be written as 1 by capital N summation k going from 0 to n minus 1 summation L going from 0 to n minus 1 jk jl expected value of Ck into Cl. So for k not equal to L, the expected value of Ck Cl will be equal to expected value of Ck into expected value of Cl. So why we are able to write the product as expected value of each term? Because these are independent random variables. So since we know that the mean of Ck is equal to 0, for k not equal to L, the expected value of Ck into Cl will be equal to 0. So if we assume that k is equal to L, we have expected value of Ck square, and this will be equal to 1 because Ck square, since Ck can take either +1 or -1, Ck square is always 1. So the average value of Ck square is 1. So we have come to the expression of variance of Vcj given j as 1 by n summation k going from 0 to n minus 1 jk square. So next we use the expression for interference power which we had calculated earlier, that is capital J is equal to 2 by Tb summation k going from 0 to n minus 1 jk square, and the spread factor capital N is equal to Tb by Tc. We use these two expressions in the variance expression, and we arrive at the final expression of variance in terms of average interference power capital J as variance of Vcj given j will be equal to jTc by 2. So thus we can conclude that the random variable capital VCJ has 0 mean and variance JTC by 2, where J is the average interference power and TC is the chip duration. So as we had seen earlier, the signal component at the coherent detector output is Vs is equal to plus or minus root EB, where EB is the signal energy per bit. So the peak instantaneous power of the signal component will be equal to EB. Now we can calculate the output signal to noise ratio, that is the signal to noise ratio at the output of the coherent detector. It can be defined as the instantaneous peak power EB divided by the variance of the equivalent noise component. So the SNR at the output can be written as 2EB by JTC, and this is indicated as equation number 3. So here the signal component is nothing but the Vs value corresponding to the Vs component, and the noise component is nothing but the component corresponding to the spread interference, that is the jammer signal VCJ component. Okay, so the SNR or the output signal to noise ratio at the output is 2EB by JTC, that is the ratio of the signal power divided by the noise power. So once we have calculated the SNR at the output of the receiver, next we move on to the calculation of the SNR or signal to noise ratio at the input of the receiver. So at the input of the receiver, we know that we have the signal y of t, which is equal to x of t plus j of t, where x of t is the signal component and j of t will be the noise component. Okay, so x of t, the transmitted signal, is the signal component, and j of t, that is the jammer signal, will be the noise component. So corresponding to x of t, if we calculate the average power, we will get the average signal power at the input as EB by TB. And if we calculate the noise power, since the noise signal here is nothing but the jamming signal j of t, we know that the jamming signal j of t has the average power capital J. So the input SNR or the input signal to noise ratio can be defined as SNR at input I will be equal to EB by TB by capital J. So this is denoted as equation number 4. So next what we do is, looking at the equations 3 and 4, that is SNR at the output and SNR at the input respectively, we have a common term EB by capital J, and we eliminate the term EB by capital J between equations 3 and 4. And then we can express the output SNR in terms of input SNR as SNR at the output will be equal to 2 TB by TC SNR at the input. So this is indicated as equation number 5. Next we introduce a term called as the processing gain, indicated as PG, and this is defined as a gain in SNR obtained by the use of spread spectrum. So this processing gain PG can be calculated as PG is equal to TB by TC. Now this processing gain, it represents the gain achieved by processing a spread spectrum signal over an unspread signal. So thus equation 5 we can substitute for TB by TC in terms of the processing gain PG, and if we write the equation 5 in decibels, we have the expression 10 log to the base 10 SNR at the output will be equal to 10 log to the base 10 SNR at the input plus 3 plus 10 log to the base 10 processing gain in dB. So here the 3 gives a 3 is nothing but contributed by 10 log to the base 10 of the factor 2 in the equation 5. So again, as we see in the expression, the SNR at the output is higher than the SNR at the input by a factor which is contributed due to the processing gain or the factor PG. So the processing gain PG and the spread factor capital N both are equal to the ratio TB by TC. Thus we can say that the longer the period sequence, that is larger the value of capital N, the larger will be the processing gain and thus the gain that is achieved in SNR. So next we move on to the determination of the probability of error. So let the coherent detector output small v in the DS bar BPSK system as shown in figure 1. Let it denote the sample value of a random variable indicated as capital V. So the noise component at the output of the coherent detector, as we had seen earlier, small VCJ, let it denote the sample value of a random variable capital VCJ. So since we know that the output of the coherent detector small v is equal to Vs plus Vcj, and Vs is equal to a deterministic quantity, that is plus or minus root EB. So in terms of the corresponding random variables, we can rewrite the expression as capital V is equal to plus or minus root EB plus capital Vcj. So here the plus sign, it refers to sending symbol 1, and minus sign, it refers to sending symbol 0. So the decision rule for determining the probability of error is as follows. So a threshold value of 0 is set and the output of the coherent detector is observed, and if this output it is seen to exceed the threshold value of 0, the received bit is decided as bit 1, and if the coherent detector output value is less than the threshold value of 0, then the received bit is decided to be bit 0. So if the output is exactly the value 0, then the receiver it makes a random guess in favor of bit 1 or bit 0. So from the discussion of BPSK, we already know that the average probability of error is nothing but it's the same as the conditional probability of error. For example, the error that the receiver makes a decision in favor of symbol 1 given that symbol 0 was sent. So this is from the discussion of BPSK, where we had derived the expression for average probability of error, and we saw that this average probability of error is same as a conditional probability of making an error. So here we have considered the instance where we make the error of deciding in favor of symbol 1 when actually symbol 0 was sent. So this error in this particular scenario, here we have the probability of error as probability of capital V being greater than 0 given that symbol 0 was sent. So this is nothing but the conditional probability that the receiver makes a decision in favor of symbol 1 given that symbol 0 was sent. That is, decision in favor of symbol 1 is made when the received value capital V is greater than the threshold value of 0. So this probability is nothing but probability that VCJ is greater than root of EB. So from the expression for probability of error, we know that the probability of error depends on the random variable capital VCJ. So we had model VCJ as the sum of n IID random variables, as we had seen earlier. Now what we do is we apply the central limit theorem, and for large value of n, it says that the random variable VCJ, it has a Gaussian distribution. So what central limit theorem basically says is that when we add a large number of identically distributed random variables, the distribution of the sum will be a Gaussian distribution. So the VCJ, which is the sum of n identically distributed random variables, will be a Gaussian distribution with mean value 0 and variance JTC by 2. So this mean value and the variance we had derived earlier. So we can conclude that the random variable VCJ is now a Gaussian distributed random variable with mean value 0 and the variance JTC by 2. So the probability of error, which is nothing but the probability that the random variable VCJ takes a value greater than root EB, can then be found as probability of error is equal to 1 by 2 ERFC of root EB by JTC. So now we can, what we do is we follow the steps similar to the derivation of probability of error for the BPSK modulation scheme, and we will arrive at this result. So this equation is indicated as equation number 6. So next we compare equation number 6 with the average probability of error for a coherent BPSK system, which is derived in module 5. So we know that the expression for average probability of error for a coherent BPSK system is P is equal to 1 by 2 ERFC of root of EB by N naught. So if we compare this with the BR of DS bar BPSK system which we had calculated in the previous slide, the interference can be treated as a noise, wideband noise of power spectral density N naught by 2, and we can write N naught by 2 is equal to JTC by 2. So since the signal energy per bit EB is equal to P times TB, where P is the average signal power and TB is a bit duration, the signal energy per bit to noise spectral density ratio can be written as EB by N naught, and this will be equal to TB by TC into P by J. So here we have substituted for EB as PTB and N naught as JTC as in the previous slide. So here we use the definition of processing gain or PG, and we rewrite this equation as capital J by P is equal to the processing gain by EB by N naught, since we know that the processing gain is equal to TB by TC. Now this ratio J by P is called as a jamming margin. So the jamming margin is nothing but the average jamming power capital J divided by the average signal power capital P. So the jamming margin can be expressed in decibels as jamming margin in dB will be equal to the processing gain in dB minus 10 log to the base 10 of EB by N naught minimum. So here EB by N naught minimum is a minimum value that is required for achieving a given average probability of error. So with this we have come to the end of our discussion on DS bar BPSK system. Thank you.